Here we are back on number 2 of There Is Magic, where we left off as they were just going to leave the park. As they went out, his sister clapped happily, looking at everyone's Christmas decorations. She laughed and said, "Magic, Mummy, magic." "Yes, darling, it does look magical." With that, Gary shouted, "There's no magic," and wriggled out of his mummy's hand and ran along to the park entrance. When he reached the gate at the end of the path, he did stay and wait. He was cross, but he did not want to lose his mummy and sister. His mummy and sister came down the pathway to the gate of the park. They entered the huge park. Gary did usually love coming here. There was usually lots of people about with dogs. Gary's daddy always said he was not allowed to touch anyone's dog ever unless he asked the owner first. His daddy had promised him that one day they would have a dog, and he knew exactly the type of dog he wanted. It was an Alsatian. He and Daddy had made friends with one who would come to the park a lot. It was called Marty. He loved that dog. He did ask the owner if he could have him. He was serious. His daddy and Marty's owner just laughed at him. Gary thought grown-ups to be most annoying. They don't understand anything. "Oh no," thought Gary, "no one's here, not even my friend Marty." "Told you it was stupid to come here. It's boring," Gary said to his mummy. "Well, your sister and I are here with you, Gary. Come to the swings." "No, leave me alone." He ran off towards one of his favourite places. He didn't even know why, but he loved to sit by a fence, backing onto someone's garden, right by a huge tree. Its branches hung over the high wooden fence into the park. It was quite a way from the play area, but for some reason, sometimes Gary just liked to sit here. Gary's mummy shouted over to Gary that she was in the play area with Megan. He didn't answer. He really wanted to run and give his mummy a cuddle, but he did not feel proud that he'd upset her. Why do adults have to spoil things? They always make things hard when it needn't be. All he wanted was his daddy home for Christmas, and they'd all be happy. Why was that so hard? He ran to his favourite spot, slid down the fence, and sat down on the ground. "Right," said Mighty Oak, "I will tell you my story." Gary heard his daddy telling his children a story in the garden behind the fence. "Lucky so-and-so's, there's their daddy's home for Christmas." He put his head back against the fence to hear the story as well. "A good friend of mine keeps deer. They help with his business." "Like a farm," said Sammy, swinging enthusiastically, then quickly stopped when he realized what he was doing. "Well, yes, in a way, because they did have produce. Anyway, one of the deer was sulking. He did not want to work. He wanted Christmas off, like other people do. There was no shops open, no schools, no trams, buses. His boss said, 'Well, you only work one night. I know you work really hard, but think of the service that you do.' 'I know, but I don't want to work this year.' 'Well, do you think it's very fair on your friends? They'll have to work harder.' 'You don't have to, but I would like you to. Will you just think about it?' Well, the deer thought about it, and all he could think was he really didn't feel like working. So he decided he wouldn't. So he went to his boss and said, 'I have decided I do not want to work.' 'Thank you.' His boss smiled warmly at him and said that was fine. Now, although he said it was fine, the deer felt uneasy. He did not feel like he thought he would. Now, it was nearly breakfast time, and the breakfast on Christmas Eve was always a special treat. There was always some lovely food to eat, nuts, berries of every kind, some which were not even in season. It would take about an hour to eat breakfast on Christmas Eve. So he queued up for breakfast with the other deer, and then he suddenly thought, "Oh, I wonder if I can have the same breakfast as the others. The only reason we get so much is because we need as much energy as possible, because we work so hard on Christmas Eve." He explained to his friends that he was having the day off today to relax, and would it be all right if he still had breakfast with them. They all said it was fine. They'd been told. And as they went into the dining hall, laid on the table there was this fine feast. He looked at all the food, which seemed the best ever. However, for some reason, he'd lost his appetite. He couldn't understand why. He didn't feel ill. There was nothing to worry about. He didn't even have to go for a run mid-morning to prepare for work this evening. Breakfast did not seem the same. He convinced himself he must be going down with something, perhaps a cold or something. I know, he thought, I'll walk around the factory. I love doing that, he thought. So off he trotted to the factory. He nudged the door open with his nose. My goodness, look at all this. It was marvellous. It surprised the dear. The workers in the factory had pulled it off again. They had made so many marvellous things out of metal, wood, paper, all lovely bright colours. Usually the deer would be running around so excited, which is how he got his name. But nothing excited him today, which made no sense. He had the day off, what he had wished for, and yet he felt very sad indeed, not at all happy like he thought he would. He trotted outside and he heard laughter in the distance.